Hey, everybody, it has been a while. It seems that I say that almost every video, doesn't it? Because, things get in the way. I actually started to make one a little while ago, and I just wasn't that inspired by it. I didn't think I was doing a very good job, and so I deleted it. And I thought, well, I need to find something I really want to talk about. And the first half of the year is come and gone. I can't believe it. I'm recording this on July 5th, so we're just a few days past the first half of the year coming and going. And I want to talk about my collection this year that I've got and sort of what I've been listening to, what has piqued my interest, some of the albums I've bought. I started this year really kind of in a buying funk. I ended last year buying a bunch of records by Uncle Neil and the Horse, and that was really cool. Some that I had overlooked and some that I just, for whatever reason, never bought. They put a new album out last year called Barn, which I thought was really good. I didn't think it was necessarily great, but for what it is, they did a good job on it. It's a lot more sublime than the stuff I normally listen to for Neil. So anyway, but that was 2021. So 2022 I started. I got a couple of albums for my birthday, but I was in a state of Never Neverland. I guess I really didn't know where to go as far as what to buy, and then I ended up getting into some jazz. I didn't, if I was to bring out every prop or a prop for every album I'm talking about, it would be ridiculous. But I bought an Art Blakey album from my local record store, off the record, and I've never heard an Art Blakey album I didn't like. The man was a god on drums. He was thunderous. He was had some of the best timing you could imagine. He was powerful. He could play just about any style of jazz, and so that kind of kicked things up a little bit. But I didn't go too heavy into jazz. I also got Cool Struttin' by Sonny Clark, which was a great album, and my friend Rob is the one who introduced me to that. But we'll get into really some of the high points here. As many of you know, my favorite live rock and roll album of all time is Full House Live by Jay Giles Band. 3 days ago I had 9 copies. Now I have 8 because a friend just recently got into record collecting for the first time in decades, and I thought, well, I have a couple of spares. I could maybe afford to give one away, so I did, because I thought, I'm trying to pass on the gospel of this great record, because really Jay Giles after the mid-70s I don't care for. They turned into too much of a pop band. So anyway, I have copies from all over the world. This one came in earlier this year, and this is really cool. And again, the front cover doesn't say much, but if you look right down, oh shoot, there's too much glare. Maybe you can see it. This is a Greek copy. So I now have a copy that was pressed in Greece in the 70s, and this is really cool. And this is a good pressing. It's one of my favorites. And then the hardest one to find that I've ever been after, Music on Vinyl put a copy out in 2015, and to try and find it has been a journey, and I finally found it in late January, early February, I don't remember exactly, but I found it, forgive me for saying this wrong, it's either Dunedin or Dunedin, New Zealand. It's on the southern island, on the other side of Christchurch, west of Christchurch, New Zealand, and they had a brand new copy. And I paid $44.99 New Zealand dollars plus shipping, and it ended up being about 54 American dollars, which is more than I usually spend on a single album. But the curse is real when it comes to collecting. I had to have this. And then I played it, and it's very similar to the Mobile Fidelity pressing in that they brought forward the music and they pushed back the crowd noise. So that was, I don't know, I still don't know how to feel about it. The sound is second to none on it, but it lost a bit of the live feel. That said, I had to have it. I don't regret it. So now I've got the music on vinyl pressing. I also sort of rediscovered my love of Frank Zappa this year, and that was kicked off back in January, and we'll take the sticker off. No, we won't. We'll leave it on there, but I won't show you because I paid a little more than I perhaps wanted to, but not as much as what other people are asking. And my friend John over at Off the Record happened to get Waka Jawaka in, and this one I had never seen in the wild before, and it was on my list of albums I really wanted, and I almost bought a CD copy. It was actually in my Discogs cart, and I'm so glad I didn't, because this is a really nice copy. Sort of jazz fusion. It's a bit of rock and roll. It's got a little bit of everything on there for a Zappa fan. It's part avant-garde. And then the other album, and I've said before, this is a very divisive album. If you follow my Instagram, I just posted about this. I finally got a vinyl copy of Bongo Fury with Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart, and this is near the top of my list for favorite Zappa albums. Even many diehard Zappa fans have a hard time digesting this because of Captain Beefheart and his vocals and his lyrics, and he made Zappa seem kind of normal. His Beefheart is definitely an acquired taste, and I'm getting there. I have some of his albums and I really like them, but there are a couple that I'm not fussy on. However, this one, which starts off with Deborah Cadabra and ends with the classic Muffin Man, is just such a solid album. Unfortunately, this would be the last major collaboration between these two. They had gone to high school together out in Cucamonga, California, out in the desert. They had been friends for years and years at this point, but business deals and recording contracts and general hard feelings crept between them, and persisted almost until the end when Zappa passed away in the early 90s. Beefheart passed away, I want to say 2010, early 2011, I can't remember. He'd been sick for a long time. But anyway, so this is one of those holy grail records that I was really happy to find. So that one's really cool. Gosh, there's just a bunch. And so then there were two albums that were supposed to come last year and didn't. One of them kind of came and went, I think. Here's part of the problem, right, is that there are too few pressing plants and too much of a demand, and then some of the big stars, Adele, taking up all the space in the major pressing plants. And so anybody who's not a gargantuan megastar is not getting their vinyl pressed right away. What used to take 3 months and then 6 months is now taking 10 months to a year to get pressed. So, the Ballad of Dude and Juanita by Sturgill Simpson, official studio album of original material number 5. It is a concept record about old dude and his wife, and she gets kidnapped and he goes after her, and it's, I heard some people kind of relate this to Red-Headed Stranger by Willie Nelson, but it's excuse me, it's not, because the woman hadn't done him wrong. I listened to it once streaming when it was released digitally last fall, and I didn't get into it, and that's happened a number of times to me. I don't know if it has to you guys, where the ones and the zeros don't make sense. They don't make the music make sense, and so I thought, just kind of take it or leave it. And then when it was supposed to be released, I think in October and then December, and it finally came out early this year, and I was really hemming and hawing about buying it, but I'm really glad I did, because Sturgill is in great form here. It's not even 30 minutes. It's a very short album. The same band that played on his bluegrass albums plays on here, so there's a bluegrass feel to it. Actually, Willie Nelson plays lead guitar, although he doesn't sing on here. Sierra Hall on mandolin. She's a great young up-and-comer in the bluegrass world. Stuart Duncan, who's a god in the bluegrass world, and just a bunch of other great musicians around here. So, for those of you who may have listened to the ones and zeros, or maybe even the CD and not cared for it, give the vinyl a chance. I spun it, I think, 2 times right in a row when I got it, and I enjoyed it. And then, here's the big one. This was released, it was available for pre-order in March 2021, and it was supposed to be supposed to be delivered in October, in time for the man's 75th birthday. And then they kept pushing it back, and so it did not arrive until the end of January-ish. And I want to say it was worth the wait, but I'm just so impatient to say it really pissed me off. But it came out as part of the Newport Foundation for the Newport Folk Festivals. This is recorded live in 2017. John Prine closed out the show. He closed out the festival that year. And this is John Prine and Friends live at Newport Folk. And on here is Justin Vernon, Jim James, Margot Price, Nathaniel Ratliff, Roger Waters, and Lucius, the female duet of Lucius. And this is everything I had hoped it would be, and then some, because, you know, there were YouTube videos, there was bootleg digital release, you know, and I still get choked up at the loss of John Prine, and I've gone into that in previous videos, so I'm not going to go into it a whole lot more. But this recording is so well done. It's like he's still there. It's like you're in the audience, you know, with him, and he was so vibrant and so joyful. I'm trying to come up with a better adjective, and I can't. And over the course of 2 records, 4 sides, he sings his greatest hits and some album tracks, and there's a lot of humor and a lot of heart. And, you know, of course, it closes with Paradise with the entire festival roster. And, yeah, so this one, it was a limited pressing. Allegedly, they're going to press more. But this was, yeah, this is a touchstone moment. And you know, we're lucky as John Prine fans, because Oh Boy Records has released a lot of live documents from throughout his career at different stages. So to get a latter-day Prine record and to have him sound so good, we're just blessed to have this. So, gosh, I was going to sort of save this toward the end, but I'll get them out of the way now. I have not bought a lot of albums that were released in 2022 so far. Just a small handful, because I've been going backwards, and I'll talk a bit more about some other stuff here. But I have 2 nominations for Album of the Year so far. One I have discussed before, and this is A Beautiful Time by Willie Nelson. I did a video on Willie's new releases for this year, just a short one, a month or 2 ago. And I'll Love You Till the Day I Die, the lead-off track, written by Rodney Crowell and Chris Stapleton, is one of my favorite Willie Nelson songs. He could not have done it more perfectly. So please go back and check out my other video where I discuss this more in depth. And then another one, and I just listened to this the other night with a friend over here. They were originally the Dirty Knobs, now they're Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs. Mike Campbell, of course, was the lead guitar player for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. He was really the co-captain. He was the guy who steered the ship, actually. And, you know, they put what the heck was the name of the album from 2 years ago? External Combustion, maybe? I can't remember. Oh no, that's this one. What the heck was the one from a couple of years ago? Not enough coffee today, or too much, I don't know. Anyway, External Combustion, as I'm looking right at the darn thing. This picks up where the last one left off and keeps going with it. This is like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers in a parallel universe. I don't think many of us, including me, and I will admit it, I always liked Mike Campbell. I never appreciated Mike Campbell. Now that He is leading a band, and they've been together off and on for years. It was a side project. He sounds a lot like Tom, and how could you not, having spent 45 years together or more? The guitar riffs are great. This is just pure rock and roll and boogie and great songwriting. State of Mind featuring Margot Price is a great duet on here. And then Dirty Job is a wonderful Down and Dirty Blues number featuring Ian Hunter, the great Ian Hunter of Mott the Hoople, sings and plays piano on that track. Anyway, so if you're into just good classic rock, it doesn't get any better than Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs. So do yourself a favor, pick up External Combustion, the album I'm holding here from this year. One of the albums of the year so far. I actually wish I had brought a coffee down. I kind of didn't. I kind of thought I had too many today, but maybe I could have used one more, and I'm getting a little parched, so forgive me. Every so many years, I always go backwards and I sort of rediscover genres or rediscover artists. I think we all do that. And this year I've really gone back to the blues because, when it comes to rock and roll, everything goes back to the blues. And so I found it sort of started. This is really more rhythm and blues, R&B. As Dr. John called him, if I can remember the quote right, he was the best one-eyed black, gay, junkie piano players that New Orleans ever had. And for those of you in the know, James Booker. I found these in the wild, and man, I had never seen it, and I knew some of the music on here. These are both solo piano ones. No, not completely. The second one here, Classified, has some band members on it. This one, New Orleans Piano Wizard Live, recorded over in Europe in the 70s. This guy was brilliant. There was a Netflix documentary about him years ago, and that's how I heard about him. Yeah, he did. He made a lot of bad decisions, and he had a lot of bad habits, and he was very much self-sabotaging. But James Booker, soulful singer, brilliant piano player. If you ever get a chance to find his albums, as long as they're in decent shape, grab them. You don't even have to listen to them first. I'm telling you, go buy them. And so anyway, that sort of led down the road to just a bunch of other blues, and I found, and this really kicked it off too, Slippin' and Slidin' by J.B. Hutto and the New Hawks. Oh man, I don't have that one, and that's a hard to find one. And then I listened to it and I went, oh man, I have that on CD under another name. Some other record company had pirated it. I didn't realize that. And so it was great to have it on vinyl. And then I also picked up the one that came out right before. These were his last two albums recorded within months before he died. Slide Slinger and Slippin' and Slidin'. And J.B. Hutto, of course, deep voice. If he sort of looks familiar, it's because his nephew, Lil Ed Williams of Little Ed and the Blues Imperials, sort of adopted his look and his slide playing and almost his vocal style. And I'm not saying he ripped him off. He did a great job. Lil Ed is one of the best bluesmen going, but this is pure Chicago West Side slide guitar, crunchy roadhouse blues. It's fantastic. And also, if you want great roadhouse blues, a guy who literally grew up in Arkansas in next to a juke joint that his dad ran, Sun Seals. These are not my favorite Sun Seals records. I bought them just on the strength of his reputation. 1980s Chicago Fire, 1984's Bad Axe. As happened with a lot of Alligator recording artists, the 70s stuff was super raw and in your face, and the 80s stuff, still stinging guitars, still great vocals, little smoothed over. There's one track on here called I Can Count on My Blues that I cannot stand, believe it or not. And but beyond that, this is probably an 8.5 out of 10 record. Chicago Fire, I'd probably give a 7.5 or 8 out of 10. So these are still very much worth owning. Son had this just deep gravelly voice. It was amazing, and he had this killer guitar style that, you know, he, in a perfect world, he would have been a top 10 artist, just a period of any genre. And then, you know, there's this one was just sort of you talk about some of the more obscure people. If you've ever heard of Johnny Littlejohn, this is the only album I have of his. But boy, Eddie Taylor was on here, Larry and Aaron Burton, Sam Lay, A.C. Reed on horn. So yeah, there's some Lafayette Leak on piano. There's a kind of a who's who of Chicago blues on here. And then, you know, he played kind of a mean slide guitar, but a different style. It was just a really fun record. If you've ever heard of him, look that one up. I mentioned Eddie Taylor. I found this one online, Still Not Ready for Eddie. And I knew of Eddie Taylor, of course, because he was with Jimmy Reed and John Lee Hooker. There's a picture of him with Reed on the back. This is on Antone's Records. Clifford Antone, of course, the founder of Antone's Music Club down in Austin. This was recorded there right before he died in 85. Yeah, I think 85. Yes, Eddie Taylor died on Christmas Day, 1985. He was never a mainstream artist, but this is one of the best blues records you'll ever hear. It's a live album. I didn't know that when I bought it. I thought maybe it was a studio record. I never heard it. I bought it purely on the fact that there's Eddie Taylor, Luther Tucker, Sunnyland Slim, Snooky Pryor, Bob Stroger, Hubert Sumlin, Ted Harvey from Hound Dog Taylor and the House Rockers is on here. Jimmy Rogers from Muddy Waters Band is on here. They couldn't have made a bad album. They might have made one that wasn't great, but they did make one that was great. This is sort of the last musical will and testament of Eddie Taylor before he passed. You must search this out if you're a fan of Chicago blues. And then also Chicago blues, Otis Rush, So Many Roads. This one was live in concert in Japan in 1975, I believe. Yes, July 1975, so 47 years ago. Otis Rush, I've spoken of before, southpaw, playing a guitar upside down. He came to prominence on Cobra recordings in the late 50s. So before there was Buddy Guy, before there was Magic Sam, any of those greats, before Sun Seals, there was Otis Rush. Now, Otis had not a typical blues voice. He had a very rhythm and blues, almost gospel feel to his voice a lot of times. He could play any kind of blues, and the man was just a master. And this is great. It's 2 guitars, drums, bass, live in front of some sold-out fanatic crowds in Japan. Jimmy Johnson, Sylvester Boynes, and Tyrone Century are on here. They were Jimmy Dawkins' backing band. And of course he does All Your Love I Miss Lovin'. Great version on here of his original song before Zeppelin did it and took credit for it. I Can't Quit You Babe is on here. So this is if I were to do a top 10 live blues albums, and I may, it's an idea coming to me here, this would be in it. Spoiler alert. Otis Rush. And my friend Rob, who I mentioned earlier, he sent me a great quote. Carlos Santana said something to the effect of, "No one could get inside of a note like Otis Rush playing guitar." If that tells you anything about the high praise that he had from those in the know. I've completed several discographies this year, or at least as much as I want to. I had been after this for a long time. I just didn't want to pay the money. I finally did. I had everything Judas Priest had ever put out except for 2001's Demolition. This is the second and final studio record from when Tim Ripper Owens was in the band, when Rob Halford had taken his leave of absence, for lack of a better term, from the Priest. I don't like it very much. It's not a bad album, but it's not a Judas Priest record. This is almost more of a Glenn Tipton solo record with Tim Owens singing, and it has nothing to do with Ripper. He was and still is, a phenomenal heavy metal vocalist. So it's just the songs weren't there, the production. I see why this was, the beginning of the end of the Ripper years, and when Halford would come back. And so, see, I did that purposely because I want to talk about some reissues that came out this year. And one of them is Resurrection by Rob Halford. He did this in 2000. So he left Judas Priest after the Painkiller tour in 92, formed the band Fight, which War of Words is among my 3 favorite Holy Grail Rob Halford albums. Painkiller's the other one, and this is the third. When people ask me, oh, what's Rob Halford all about? What can he do vocally? What kind of music does he do? This is it. I picked this up originally on CD 22 years ago because he was playing at a little club as a warm-up gig before the Halford band went on tour with Iron Maiden. Fight put out 2 records, dissipated. He put out an industrial album with John Five and Trent Reznor. That thankfully kind of went nowhere because it neutered his voice. He came roaring back as the metal god here with Resurrection. This is the best Judas Priest album that Priest never made. It features the title track, Made in Hell, Locked and Loaded. The One You Love to Hate with Bruce Dickinson is on here. Cyber World, Temptation, on and on and on. Just a dozen phenomenal songs. This pushed me into collecting. I wasn't going to pull these out. However, pushed me into nearly completing my Rob Halford discography. So, I picked up the Resurrection World Tour live at Rock in Rio, and that was from the Resurrection tour, as I just said. He was phenomenal here. I saw him on this tour. He did a warm-up gig before he was opening for Iron Maiden, who were also here. Live at Super Saitama Arena. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but I saw him on this tour when he was in Grand Rapids in 2010. The Halford band was in phenomenal shape there. Fight, War of Words, the film, I'm incredibly disappointed in because it has some great background stuff. But this was one of those horrible mid-90s concert films where they used the tracks from one show and they spliced in 4, 5, 6 different shows worth of footage and they dubbed it. And so I can listen to it, but I can't watch it. And then the K5 War of Words demos, which, oh my word, the intensity on here, almost more intense than the studio album itself. This is as raw as it gets. This is phenomenal stuff. If you're a fan of classic heavy metal and Rob Halford, I would pick up all of these, perhaps except for War of Words, the film. I'm almost done with his discography. There's a box set I'm trying to get. That's it. And I have almost everything in it, so I've been debating. Anyway, at the opposite end of the spectrum, I talked about these earlier this year, but I would like to quickly mention them again. Multi-genre artist, writer, sculptor, painter, interactive artist, and fantastic musician, songwriter Terry Allen re-released Bloodlines and Smokin' the Dummy earlier this year on Paradise of Bachelors Records. I spoke about these in another video a few months ago. Please go back and watch that, and please, if you're a fan of great music and Texas music, and this could only come out of the Panhandle, pick those up. And then the last item I'm going to speak about, this reissue came out on vinyl this year. It's actually copyrighted last year because last year was the 40th anniversary, but the 40th anniversary box set for Rush Moving Pictures came out, and I have an original vinyl pressing. I've got the remastered CD. This was one that I wasn't sure I was going to get, and then when the time came, I pulled the trigger, and it could not sound any better. So this is not even the Super Deluxe. This is the remastered album, which sounds better than it ever has. And then there is a 4 LP complete show from Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto in 1981, March of 1981. Now, they said it was marketed as one complete show. It's the complete set list, but it's actually songs from 2 nights if you look in the fine print of the liner notes. It's the best live Rush album there is. And I can say that now because getting this spurred the collector in me. And for years I had avoided, the mid-'80s Rush albums. I found them cheap used on CD. And then in one format or another, whether it's video or CD or vinyl, I picked up every live album that they've got. And I finished my studio and live collection. So minus the many and varied greatest hits, which are all the same and to me completely unnecessary, I have all of the Rush studio and live albums now. And I'm working on a video for those, so that's a complete spoiler, but it's this bugger's fault. I got it. I played it all in one night, which, of course, as you can imagine, is massive. Anything Rush is epic. And listening to Moving Pictures along with a 4 LP live album recorded in front of a hometown crowd, it's the best live Rush album there is. If you're a Rush fan, even if you've got Moving Pictures in another format, if you don't have this box, really, it is completely worth the money. So now that I have prattled on for about a half an hour, which is longer than I planned, I just want to say thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you very much for interacting. I've gained a few new followers. I hope you enjoy this video. Please, this is always a fun part to me. Interact. Put your comments below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you like any of these. Let me know if you've picked any of these up. And let me know what you're listening to this year. The year's only half over. We have a lot of good releases coming up for, variety of different genres. So I think 2022 is shaping up to be a good musical year overall. And even if there aren't a whole lot of new albums, don't stop collecting. I didn't this year. I mean, this is just a sampling of what I've got. So anyway, take care, everybody. Again, I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching.